Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the Big 12 is open for business. This show is open for business. Welcome in. Best Big 12 podcast on planet Earth. I am your host, John Kurtz. Thank you all for joining me here tonight. We've got a lot to break down. I suppose not the least of which is that the coaching carousel continues to turn and turn, all right? If you've got a coveted Big 12 coach, Brian Kelly just got fired at LSU, so throw another hat into the ring, man. It is going to be the most insane coaching carousel we have ever seen in college football this offseason. Just get ready, be prepared, and perhaps clutch your coach a little bit tighter tonight, all right? That's not going to be the main focus here, though. Main focus here is a Big 12 identity crisis, okay? And yes, I see you guys in the comments. Yes, Texas Tech absolutely belongs in the group with the three that I mentioned in the header. But the point here is the much maligned first four group of schools that were added to the Big 12 are now seemingly taking over, minus UCF. And I'm sorry, Knights, but you're not in that group. But Houston, Cincinnati, and BYU, if you go look at those Big 12 standings right now, Houston, Cincinnati, and BYU are three of the top four. And those are all teams that have taken their fair share of bullets from folks over the last couple of years criticizing why the Big 12 added them, both from external sources and internal sources. And is this a bad thing for the Big 12? Could this hurt the Big 12's reputation? It's a lot to talk about with this, okay? We're going to get to that. Oh, boy, I put up I've got my incorrect asset up here on the side. I'm sorry. Bear with me, guys. Those of you who say I need a producer, this is one of those times I put up the wrong topics. There we go. All right. ESPN showing the Big 12 some love. The AP poll showing the Big 12 some love. How about that? And I've got some Big 12 power rankings that, man, I tell you what, I didn't even have the power rankings done yet. I merely asked a question related to my power rankings on Twitter to all of you guys yesterday while the games were going on. I got you guys fired up. I had people more angry with me seemingly than of anything I've tweeted in a long time. So you'll find out what that was that did that. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of you guys who do that. It's totally free. It does help me out a lot. Amazing, all of you guys who do help me in that way. You can hit me up on Venmo at John-Kurtz-4, and I will kick off the next show with your question or comment if you leave a donation and a question or comment there. So another thing I really appreciate if you are able. Of course, if you're watching the show here live right now, you can interact in the chat, which people are doing, but you can also guarantee that you make it on tonight by clicking the $ below the chat box to leave a question or comment. It's a super chat. All of that is great. So thank you all. Open for Business is also my Big 12 newsletter that you can subscribe to at ofbnews.com. Click the link in the description of the video or just go to ofbnews.com to join 5,400 other Big 12 fans who get it to their inbox twice a week, totally for free. We're going to start with Bob here. Bob is a Venmo contributor, and I appreciate it as always, Bob. Bob says, way late, but thanks for covering the Holy War from LaVell Edwards Stadium. Of course. Bob says, I just wish I could have said what follows in person. Thanks for tremendous coverage of the Big 12 and solid analysis. Love this conference. Bob, thank you very much. Very genuine, very kind. I appreciate that. And I immensely appreciate all of your support. You are a loyal one who is always contributing here. So I appreciate that a lot. I was happy to make the trip. It was a ton of fun. And look, I'll just put it out there. I mean, my ultimate goal with this, I would love to. You guys know I like and appreciate Josh Pate quite a bit around here. I think he is the best doing college football content out there. And I would love to be able to go to the best Big 12 game every single week and do a live show there. That's kind of ultimate vision that I have here. So folks at BYU have been very good to me. I know that's a place I can do it. I know obviously at K-State, where I will be this Saturday, I will be taking in K-State Texas Tech this Saturday. Suddenly a very big game and very interesting game. So I'd love to do that every week. And hopefully I get to the point where I can make that happen. Okay. This is an interesting question. Should Texas Tech be worried about K-State? Those of you who are listening on podcast, which, by the way, the show is now on all your audio platforms where you get your podcasts, so you can check that out as well. But John asks, should Tech be worried about K-State? Well, isn't this a suddenly very interesting question? You guys are going to know the answer to this when you see my power rankings, that I have done a bit of a 180 on K-State, okay? We have hit the point. I'm going to give you a K-State take to start the show. I try very hard to stray away from that because if it's warranted, I will talk about K-State, but I never want to be accused of being too much of a homer here. But I do think this is very interesting now all of a sudden, especially right before I come on, we get the news about Will Hammond, Texas Tech's backup quarterback. He's out for the year with an ACL. So Baron Morton is expected to start, and according to Joey McGuire, could have started this past Saturday. Baron Morton should start in Manhattan, but he's already been knocked out of 3 games this year. This is very interesting. Tech is a 6.5-point favorite. And if Baron Morton plays healthily the entire game, Tech should definitely be, about I would say a 7 to 10 point favorite. But K-State is not the same team you saw the first month of the year. And it took me a really long time to come around to that, where I was being too negative. I mean, you guys, anyone that listens to my 3 Mile podcast, I've been getting killed for the last week for being too negative. All of us have. None of us thought that they would beat Kansas, and instead they turn around and beat Kansas 42-17. Avery Johnson had like a 92 PFF grade. PFF has him as the 8th best quarterback in the country over the last month. The first month of the season, K-State played like legitimately potentially the worst Power 4 team in the country. They are not that anymore. Since the UCF game, they beat UCF by multiple scores. They had a 14-point lead and the ball on Baylor in the fourth quarter and blew it. They beat TCU by 2 scores, and they just won at Kansas by 25. So they are a much different team than they were. This looks a lot more like the team that people thought was going to win the league at the beginning of the year. Think Kansas last year. That's what this is. Okay, I am not here to tell you I think K-State's going to rip off the rest of the season unbeaten and get to Arlington by winning the tiebreakers. But what I do think they are is 2024 Kansas. 2024 Kansas, asked BYU how dangerous 2024 Kansas was. Like, I think that's the scenario you're looking at. Thank you, the old barn cat go. It's Harley Day. Hey, I didn't even realize that. All right, we got Harley Day. There's going to be Harleys riding around. I mean, that is something that gets the fans a little more fired up. But 2:30 kickoff, and this is a fan base that has been starved for a big game this year. The Iowa State game got taken from them and put in Ireland, so you don't have that as a home game. And the season started so awfully. I mean, the first home game, they need a last-second drive just to beat North Dakota. Then you lose to Army, right? Then it's a UCF game that, like, okay, hey, TCU was fun, but now this is like, hey, we've got a team that we know is a big deal. They're coming into town. It's 2:30. It's Big Fox. We're playing lights out. If there's one thing you can do to rally K-State fans around a cause, it's beat the hell out of Kansas. And that just happened last week. So you're going to get, point being here, a revved up crowd on Saturday. And Texas Tech also has struggled mightily against K-State. They have lost 8 straight. There was a 1-year reprieve with Patrick Mahomes there, and I believe it is 12 of 13 that Texas Tech has lost to K-State. So as much as we talk about K-State just beat Kansas for the 17th straight year, K-State has beaten Texas Tech 12 out of the last 13 times they have played. So all that to say, yes, I do think that this will be a very interesting game. I think it is losable for Texas Tech. I would not predict that, but I think it is losable for Texas Tech, and a lot of it's going to hinge on, can they keep their quarterback healthy? Can they keep their quarterback healthy? I do like this. It's the Matt Wells Revenge Bowl. Yeah, Tech fans, all you Tech fans who rubbed it in K-State fans' faces. Oh, see, this is what happens when you hire Matt Wells. Oh, you guys, we tried to tell you. He kicks field goals on second down. My God, if I had a dime for every Texas Tech fan that has been in my mentions so far this year talking about a field goal on second down, I'd have enough money that I could just quit this YouTube show. I wouldn't have to do it anymore. I could quit my day job too. Yeah, I'm aware of the second down field goal, you guys. Matt Wells revenge game. Matt Wells revenge game. Matt Wells revenge game. That's funny. Thank you, L. Weiss, TTU. Look, in all seriousness, it should be a fun week. I am happy that K-State's at least getting a fun week of build up here after what this season has been, to go beat your rival the way that they did, and then to have the setup to an actual meaningful Big 12 game that could be meaningful in the Big 12 title race. I'm just really happy that that's going to happen. But yes, look, Tech has a lot of injuries. Terrence Carter, their tight end, who has 5 touchdown catches this year. He didn't play last week. Skylar Gill-Howard's out for the season. A lot of injuries. Tech fans, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Did I see that Jacob Rodriguez went out for a little bit and then came back in? I mean, that's happened a couple times this year. It doesn't seem like it's a huge deal. But Tech is getting a little beat up. And the Will Hammond thing, that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Okay. The Big 12 identity crisis. Texas Tech fans, I understand. You are a part of the top 4 of the Big 12. All right. Don't take this the wrong way. But whether you like it or not, BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston are all here to stay in the Big 12 title race. And the question that I have about that is, 1, how are the haters feeling? But 2, is that a bad thing for the Big 12's reputation and perception? That, I think, is a question worth asking. Okay. Now, Cincinnati fans who have dealt with a lot of crap over the last couple of years, I mean, basically ever since Luke Fickell left, you guys deserve to be soaking this all in right now. And I want to bring up a tweet that I saw, because I thought, you know what? Talk your stuff. This is very accurate. This is from Bearcat Matt. Okay. So those of you in the YouTube audience, you can see this right now, but Bearcat Matt, for podcast listeners, tweeted, "Next time I see a Big 12 fan account cry about adding the group of 5 teams because, quote, we were bad ads." And then he just lists the Big 12 standings, which currently are BYU number 1 at 5-0, Cincinnati number 2 at 5-0, 7-1, Houston number 3 at 4-1, 7-1. BYU, Cincinnati, and Houston, 3 of the 4 that were added in that first 4 group, that kind of life raft for both, that brought those schools into the Power 4 level and kept the Big 12 alive. They have been much maligned, man. That group took a lot of crap, still takes a lot of crap, particularly from, it's not even just the outside world. There was plenty of that. But it was also, even internally in the Big 12, grumbling from the so-called hateful 8 schools that were still around. Like, oh, I mean, come on. In like a looking down, thumbing your nose at sort of way. Like, what are we doing with Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF? I think particularly those 3, but BYU also. And then BYU had a sub 500 year 1 in the Big 12. I think there was a lot of grumbling about, like, what did we do with this? Like, I mean, I hear it a lot. Not quite as much now, but that first year or 2, there was a lot of grumbling about these schools. And now look at the standings. Look at what is happening here. Okay. Yes, Texas Tech is there. They are tied with Houston at 4-1. But if you are going, I mean, Houston gets the nod because of alphabetical order. I think with Texas Tech here, the way that this is laid out. But BYU, Cincy, and Houston, 1, 2, 3 in the Big 12 standings as we sit here in late October. So this is not like early September, man. This is late October. You got to realize these teams are here to stay right now. Okay. When I say run the league, doesn't mean running the league in perpetuity. But right now, the legacy Big 12 schools are not stepping up. And if you want to extrapolate it to last year, hey, legacy Big 12 schools, hateful 8, Arizona State won the league. They were picked last. They won the league. They came in their first season and won the league. And now you're letting BYU run wild again after they started 9-0 last year. And you've got Houston and Cincinnati creeping into it too. So hateful 8, what's going on here? There is a very fair point to be made here that the hateful 8 schools need to eat a bit of crow right now and get better, by the way. Get better. Look, BYU is I think BYU is better than they were last year. I think this BYU team is harder to kill than it was last year, and we saw exactly why on Saturday. Iowa State had a couple of chances, man. They had 318 yards of offense in the first half. They led 24-10. They led 17-7. They had multiple opportunities to just dead and bury BYU. They have a 14-point lead. LJ Martin, who's like the heart and soul of that offense, BYU's best running back at a position that's already been hit pretty hard by injuries. He goes out. His pads are off. He's done for the day. And BYU's in this double-digit hole. And yet, BYU wins by 14. They outscore Iowa State like 31-3. Did I have that right? What was it? Anyway, they win by 14. They go from down 14 to winning by 14. And a lot of that is because the reality here is, guys, what happened with Jake Retzloff, well, a mess at the time, has worked out glowingly for BYU. They're better. Bear Bachmeier is a better quarterback right now today than Jake Retzloff was last year. They can put more on Bear Bachmeier's plate. If you had all these injuries in the running back room last year and had to throw Jake Retzloff into the fire down by a couple scores in Ames, they're not winning that game. But BYU wins that game this year because Bear Bachmeier can handle it. He threw for 300-plus yards. He was the first guy to throw for 300-plus yards on an Iowa State secondary in almost 2 seasons. So there's something special happening there. They are better because their quarterback is better. I was also going to point this out because BYU fans let me know this, and I was reading in the Deseret News and found this out myself too. As much as you want to say, hey, luck, and Iowa State did puke all over themselves a bit. I mean, specifically the first interception when it was 17-7 that was thrown there by Rocco Becht. That was a bad one. I know you'll say, oh, the pick six. I thought the pick six was a really, really nice play. Great break on the ball. But then there's the muff punt. Okay, so this is what I was reading about and what BYU fans alerted me to. BYU apparently is coached to do that. Hey, if the ball is around, block your guy into it. It worked. Iowa State kicks the ball. BYU recovers. So they make their own luck. Some of that is definitely making their own luck too. But I think you should all, I don't know, maybe let me know in the chat if there is somebody. But anybody not believing BYU? Anybody not believing in them at this point? I know last year it was harder to get on board, and at the beginning of this year it might have been harder, and you're thinking, hey, true freshman quarterback, I don't know if I can buy this. Guys, they're legit. I mean, whether or not you think that they're ultimately top 10 legit, they can win the Big 12 championship legit. Cincinnati, okay? I know that Cincinnati is going to get questioned about the actual resume to this point, but man, if we were ending the season today, would Brendan Sorsby not be your Big 12 offensive MVP? Would he not be your first team All Big 12 quarterback? This offense can also just run it right down your throat. They're the number 2 offense in terms of yards per carry in the league. But Brendan Sorsby right now is 20 touchdowns, 1 interception through the air, throwing for 230 a game. He can gash you on the ground too. He's got 7 rushing touchdowns. He is having a Big 12 offensive MVP type of season this year for Cincinnati. And while you will level some, I'm sure levy some criticism, throw some criticism out there about who they have beaten so far this year. I mean, they're not just beating teams. This is not squeaking by smoke and mirrors stuff. They got up 24-0 on Baylor Saturday, and they still win by 3 scores even after Baylor climbed back in because, it was a Baylor game. So Baylor, of course, was going to dig a giant hole, come all the way back out of it, and then win or lose, but more often lose. And in this case, it was still a comfortable win in the very end for Brendan Sorsby and company. Okay. They were also up 31-7 on Iowa State. And this was weeks ago, right? This was the beginning of October, Iowa State. So Iowa State's dealt with all these injury issues. This was toward the beginning of that when Cincinnati got them. They're not, I know everybody will say, well, right now Iowa State's so beat up. And this was weeks ago. And Cincy had them down 31-7. So Cincy is more legitimate than you think. Okay. And I will admit, of the teams that I am talking about here, Houston has been the one that I've been slowest to come around on. They're 7-1, man. They just keep winning. And I know that I go through it in my own mind. I'm like, look, Arizona State is so heavily reliant on 2 players, and they had 1/2 of the 2 players available in that game last night. Sam Leavitt was bouncing in and out. They had to end the game with Jeff Sims. Jordan Tyson's not there. Their second leading wide receiver had 7 catches going into the night. So Jordan Tyson just is that offense. And Leavitt was clearly gimpy and just trying to gut it out. And as much as I talk about, I love how hard Sam Levitt plays, that is some of the consequence of it. If you don't have enough else around him, there's not Cam Scadaboo to take some of the carries and beating off of him and attract defense's attention. He's beat up, man. It's late October and he is beat up. So that's some of the calculus there. But Houston not only won, they were up 24-0. I mean, Houston did what a good team should do in that scenario. If you're playing a team that's heavily relying on two guys and they've only got half of one, then you should probably be up 24-0. They were. Connor Wigman is quietly one of the Big 12's like most best rushing quarterbacks, best rushing threats at quarterback. Which is crazy to me. That's a guy that was not a dual threat quarterback. That was a pocket passer coming out of high school. And Connor Wigman is also tough, running very hard. Like he's not afraid to put his head down. And on a day when Connors wasn't really doing much in the running game, he averaged like 2 yards a carry on 20 carries. Wigman had to shoulder a lot of the load in the running game, and he's doing that. Like Houston has a pretty dynamic quarterback. Okay, I say all this just to make the point. These teams are pretty legit. College Game Day seems to realize it. They're going to go to a Cincinnati game. Cincy at Utah this week. More on that later. But if you're still stuck in this mindset as particularly a Big 12 fan, even if you're an outsider, we have people that are outside of Big 12 country watching right now, listening right now. You still have it stuck in your head like, hey, these AAC teams are not good. They're not up to snuff. They can't. You got to get that out of your mind, man. These teams are legit. Starting with BYU, but I've got to come around and give some credit to Cincy and Houston here. And if you're concerned about, well, John, how does this make the Big 12 look? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that's something you shouldn't worry about. There are a million reasons you should worry about the Big 12's perception, this among them. Yeah, if people will say, hey, G5 teams came in, and within a couple of years now, 3 of your top 4 this late in the season are all from the G5 or, BYU, they would consider essentially G5 ranks. And you've let them come in. K-State, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Iowa State, TCU, Baylor. You guys let that happen. West Virginia, you guys let that happen, and you're scuffling in the middle and bottom of the Big 12 right now. How do you let that happen? First of all, you got to look in the mirror. If you're a K-State, Oklahoma State, TCU, Baylor fan that's had this opinion, you got to look hard in the mirror right now and be like, hey, man, we're struggling this year. Like we're not doing it. These guys did. Okay. So that's first and foremost. If you're somebody outside of the league, I would ask you to legitimately watch these teams first of all. Okay. And judge for yourself without just doing it based on the decal on the side of the helmet. And look, I have obviously needed to hear some of that too, because again, like I said, it's taken me, particularly with Houston, a long time to come around on that. But I'm coming around because they just continue to win football games. I think there's a lot here that can hurt anything. It's the same thing the Big 12 ran into last year. There's so many perception things that can hurt the league because everybody is nationally predisposed to hate on the league and not believe in the league. But it's kind of like last year when Utah and Oklahoma State are picked up at the top of the league and they turn out to be terrible. And then it's Arizona State, BYU. Everybody's like, well, those teams were picked near the bottom of the league. We don't trust BYU. Arizona State's been bad for a little while here. Like those teams can't be good. Yeah, you'll deal with the same thing here. Cincinnati, Houston, they can't be good, which is dumb because Cincinnati was just in the 4-team playoff 4 years ago. Of all the schools in the Big 12, and again, this is where I would say more internally almost to Big 12 folks, of all the schools that are in this conference, there are two that played in the 4-team version of the playoff. TCU in 2022 and Cincinnati in 2021. So if you want to come at Cincinnati and say that, hey, Cincinnati is not legit, like this is not a team that can be good. I mean, they were one of only 2 teams in this league that made the 4-team playoff with Luke Fickell in 2021. Not that long ago, my friends. BYU is one of the few schools in this league that can claim a legitimate national title. Now, we can talk all day about, I love UCF doing it in 2017. Do you buy into that? Or, Oklahoma State, I think, tries to claim one that I know a lot of people dispute. TCU's got a couple in the 30s that I look at it, I'm like, look, Colorado and BYU, I know those are generally widely considered national championships. There aren't many in this league. BYU has one of them. So there should be a lot more respect, particularly internally, with these programs historically and what they are. And even like recent history, man. Even recent history. So I say all that to say, let's be fair when judging these teams. Let's be a little kinder internally, Big 12 fans, toward what's happening here and give some long, hard looks in the mirror. I mean, Hateful Eight schools, this should be motivating. This should be, hey, we got to do something, man. You see the sense of urgency that's out there for everybody in college football right now. And it's even more so down here. I'm making the point saying, like, hey, today, like Brian Kelly just got fired for a terrible home loss. Nobody's wasting time. He's going to get upwards of $50 million. James Franklin's getting $50 million. Now, I know the money's not the same here in the Big 12, but teams are not messing around. And those are schools that don't have the existential threat that you do if you're here in the Big 12. So this should be motivating to everybody. So, yeah. And hey, the good news is, next topic, as I'll get to here in just a moment, but even ESPN seems to be paying attention to this. Even ESPN seems to be paying attention to some of the newbies in the Big 12 and what is happening here. Yes, even ESPN. Let me pop in for a couple of super chats here. I appreciate all of you guys. Click the $ below the chat box if you want to guarantee your question or comment makes it on the show tonight. You can submit a super chat that way. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. That's totally free. I appreciate all of that. If you are listening via podcast, hey, rate, review. I'm dead serious. If you give me a 5-star rating, review the show, that helps a lot. More people see it, get the word out there. Even if you're like a YouTube listener and you want free ways to help me, that's a way to go do it too. Find it on the podcast, rate, review it there. All that stuff is awesome. And subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com or click the link in the description of this video. Let's talk to Michael. Michael says the second any Big 12 team loses, they'll tumble in the AP, even BYU versus Texas Tech or Utah v. Cincy. AP voters are praying for another loss they can use. Well, I can't dispute that too much. I will say I was pretty happy with AP voters. That's another thing I want to talk about here. I was pretty happy with AP voters this week. But you are not wrong. I mean, we saw Tech drop like a rock, 7 spots after that loss to Arizona State. And BYU, look, we know what happened last year. As soon as BYU finally, when the Kansas game happened and they finally lost, everybody had been waiting to totally drop them. I'm hopeful that maybe that won't be quite as bad this year. Now that it's the second year in a row BYU is doing this, but I understand your cynicism on that. And I am with you. Generally, I am with you. So I appreciate you, Michael. Thank you for being here. Gentle Brutality. Who's Houston beaten? ASU without QB1. ASU without Levitt is even worse than Texas Tech without Morton. Houston has had a bunch of pillow fights. Gentle Brutality. You can definitely criticize Houston's schedule. I'm not going to say that you can't, but I have thought Houston was going to lose. I mean, I was going to look back at the schedule here. I thought they could lose to Arizona. I would have thought they were going to lose to Colorado, probably, honestly, when that game happened. Even as I'm doing this exercise right now, going through my head, I am like, look, yeah, Houston, you can poke a lot of holes in this schedule. Stephen F. Austin, Rice, Colorado, Oregon State, who has since fired its head coach. Colorado, we all saw what Colorado looked like on Saturday night, which, yeesh. The 24-point loss to Texas Tech. They beat up Oklahoma State. They pull it out against Arizona, and yes, they got a beleaguered Arizona State with like one half of Sam Levitt and no Jordan Tyson. Part of the reason I guess I bring up Houston, and I should have said this in the open, look at their remaining schedule. Like, whether you like it or not, Gentle Brutality, look at their remaining schedule. It's West Virginia, it's at UCF, TCU at home, and at Baylor. Now, can they lose? West Virginia fans, no offense. I don't think Houston is losing at home to West Virginia. Can they lose at UCF? I have been informed. I'm aware, UCF fans, it's the space game. I know that. I know UCF's track record with that game. Yes, that is potentially losable. Okay. I would say that is potentially losable. And then TCU at home, Josh Hoover got banged up. I just don't trust much of what I see with TCU. I said this the other night. I know TCU fans are probably sick of me saying that. It's definitely a game that Houston could win. I'll put it that way. But yes, Josh Hoover could come in and throw it all over the yard and beat them, though I think Houston's defense is pretty salty. And at Baylor, you just don't know what you're going to get from Baylor. Is Dave Aranda going to be the coach by the time that game happens? I guess we'll see. My point being here, general brutality, those are not games left against Texas Tech and Cincinnati and BYU on this schedule. Like, you may have to deal with it whether you like it or not. But it is fair. It is fair to come after Houston's schedule a bit. I will give you that. Garrett, what's up, Garrett? Garrett says, where would you rank Texas Tech with a healthy Barron? A healthy Barron, well, they're definitely number one in the Big 12, if that is your question. But we'll find out. I mean, I know BYU fans may not like that. I think just because of the talent level Texas Tech has, if it's a healthy Barron Morton, and part of this is like a healthy Barron Morton for a couple of weeks where there's continuity and like he's played, because it's just been, feels like in and out all season, then yes, I do think Texas Tech is the best team in the conference, but you have to factor in health. That's a huge part of this. And Bear Bachmeier has been much more durable at quarterback. So, yeah, number one in the Big 12. I mean, nationally, I think Tech with like a healthy Barron Morton is probably like 6, 7, 8, where I'd rank them nationally. But there are a lot of factors with that, and the health issues do continue to add up besides even just Barron Morton himself, Garrett. So, Scott, what's up, Scott? The Big 12 should try to add Nebraska for branding purposes. Well, it's a funny comment that you have there because, yeah, it would definitely help from that standpoint. I don't know that it would help as much from like a pure competition standpoint. Certainly not a team that's going to go out and win playoff games right now. Look, I want Nebraska back just for, hey, this is a team that all these Big 8 schools played for 110 years every single year. Let's get that back and play your natural regional rival purposes. But anyway, I see the point that you're making there, Scott. Alan, what's up, Alan? Alan says, John, congrats to K-State. Great performance by Avery. Loss to K-State means another year of pain. Hope we make a bowl game. Hope we take our frustrations out on the basketball court. KU looked good against Louisville. They did look very good against Louisville. Darren Peterson's going to be fun for you guys to watch this year. Alan, I genuinely feel for you. Obviously, I'm a K-State guy. I enjoyed the game on Saturday. But there are a handful of KU fans in my life that I legitimately feel bad for. You are one of them, Alan, especially if you sat out in the rain, like 50 degrees and rain to watch that. That had to be miserable. So I appreciate your kind words and your message, and I do feel bad for you, my friend. I do. But yeah, you'll be fine in hoops. It'll be a good hoops year. It'll be a good hoops year. Okay. Suddenly the Big 12 is getting all the TV love. I mean, all the TV love, guys, I'm telling you. And it's even coming from ESPN. Yes, I know. Maybe I should have told you to be sitting down before I mentioned that. Even from TV, even from ESPN, rather, this is happening. Now, I want to start with a little bit of TNT. Okay, so I watched a lot of TNT here. I mean, I've definitely watched a decent amount this season, but I'm typically not tuned into the pregame show before the Big 12 game that they have. I did watch it this week, one, because I was talking to people about it at Big 12 Media Days in Kansas City, Big 12 Basketball Media Days earlier this week, but also because it was K-State, Kansas. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll throw this on while I'm waiting for the game to start. Man, it's so well done. Their crew, like even Takeo Spikes, Adam Lefkoe, like their studio crew is great. It's just so well produced, high quality. From pregame show to, doing an interview with like Avery Johnson while he's just walking out there on the field in warmups. They had who was it? It was Highshaw. Daniel Highshaw was mic'd up too before the game. I mean, just so many good little flares and features that make the broadcast awesome. I really appreciate it. And then in game, I think their crew does a great job. And they have a big name there, and Mike Golick Jr. That's like a legit name. And they're a network that is willing to fight for the Big 12, okay? Now, this is the part, like, guys, again, maybe be sitting down for this. If you didn't see this or hear about this, you've got a TV network that is legitimately fighting for you as a conference right now, and it is TNT. TNT is legitimately fighting for you to the point where we got this out of the broadcast. This is from Adam Lefkoe in the studio, okay? I'm going to play you this clip, and I know, bear with me. Sometimes the audio is a little more faint on these clips. But I want to play this with you so you can hear what he said.
Presented by AT&T. Kickoff. Welcome inside the best studio in sports, Studio J in Atlanta, Georgia. And there are some other networks, and I don't know if they care about Big 12 football, but I'm telling you right here, that's all we care about. Welcome to Big 12 College Football Game.
Now, you may think, okay, John, that's nice, that's cute, whatever. This took some heat. Like, TNT took some heat for this, okay? First of all, I appreciate it no matter whether you think it's just some cutesy little throwaway comment or not. The Big 12 just does not have leagues doing or TV networks doing this. They do not have TV partners doing this. They do not have allies in the media generally doing these things, right? That has been a big part of the problem the entire time the league has existed. You have not had much of that. Now, when I layer on top of that, they took some heat from this. So Bob Thompson, who's been a guest on this show before, former executive at Fox Sports, he tweeted this. He didn't take kindly to this, I guess I would say. Bob says, TNT doesn't have enough college football content to be throwing any shade on anyone. Take your third-tier Big 12 package and keep your mouth shut. Woof. Take your third-tier Big 12 package and keep your mouth shut. Besides, that's not what big boy networks do. Rookie move. Okay, now this is a guy who has been around for a long time, was the head of Fox Sports. Again, has been on this channel and shared some really good insight about what's gone on in conference realignment, TV negotiations, and all that. But he saw this and was like, hey, that's kind of violating. He went on to say to somebody else, it's kind of like, hey, there's like some unwritten rules here, and this is definitely in violation of that. So he didn't take real kindly to that, which to me made it feel even better. Man, you got a TV partner in TNT who's willing to get themselves into hot water to defend your honor? Well, please. Say no more. Say less, as the kids would say. I was thrilled to get that out of TNT. So definitely do whatever you can, Brett Yormark, to further this partnership because it has been awesome. But now this is extending to even ESPN, right? Just when you think, man, how could the Big 12 getting that much love from TV partner, how does it get any better? Well, College Game Day, out of nowhere, and I mean out of freaking nowhere, is covering a Big 12 game this week. They are going to Cincy at Utah this week. Yeah, I am dead serious about that. Let that sink in for just a moment. College Game Day will be at a Big 12 game this week, and they are going to Cincy at Utah, which is a 9:15 kick on ESPN. Now, does that probably help that it's an ESPN game? Yes, I'm sure that it does. When you had, for instance, Texas Tech and Utah earlier this year, that was a Fox game. So that probably did not help in all of this. But it has been, and kudos to Heartland College Sports. I was literally just reading the write-up that they did about College Game Day a couple days ago and saying, hey, the relationship between the Big 12 and Game Day is over. This is ridiculous. They pointed out that it had been over 3 years since College Game Day has been on a Big 12 campus. Last time that happened was, remember, unbeaten Kansas hosting TCU? When TCU was just in the genesis of its season that was going to end in the college football playoff national championship game. Yet that was the last time Game Day was actually on a Big 12 campus. That was over 3 years ago. They did do the Big 12 championship game that year also, if you want to extend that olive branch. And they did Red River in 23 when Texas and Oklahoma were still members of the Big 12, if you want to count that. But I don't think many of us would. That was staggering when I took a step back to realize that. I was like, man, Game Day does not do this. Like, they do not do Big 12 games. And Pete Mundo at Heartland College Sports also pointed out this past Saturday, took 78 minutes into the show before you got a legitimate breakdown of a Big 12 game. 78 minutes. And so, like, yeah, you see, there's not a whole lot of care given to the Big 12. But now they're coming around to do this game. So how do we react to this? This is not a position as a Big 12 fan you're used to being in. How do I react to College Game Day actually saying, hey, we're going to come to your game? Well, one, understand why it happened. Okay, it is an ESPN game, as I mentioned, that's happening. And if you look through the schedule this week, which I will pull up for you so we can do this together at the same time, But if you look through the schedule of this week, you know what? Let's do this. This is the big one, Penn State, Ohio State, that has not turned out the way anybody thought it would. So you can thank James Franklin. You can thank Penn State and its roster for torpedoing that. Vandy at Texas. Vandy's already been such a focus of game day so far this year. And Texas is not your typical Texas. I mean, honestly, Mississippi State, come the hell on, dude. Kentucky and Mississippi State screwing that up the last few weeks. Whatever. Texas still ranked somehow. SMU actually probably helped a bit by losing to Wake Forest last week, 13-12. Hilarious score. Way to go, Ponies. And Miami also losing to Louisville a couple weeks ago helps. That could have been a monster game that they would have chosen over it. But now you start scrolling through these ranked matchups. I mean, I guess Oklahoma, Tennessee, but it's sort of like, Oklahoma's coming off a loss. I don't think anybody feels like either of those two teams are going to win the SEC. You can see how they got to the point where they're like, you know what? Cincinnati, Utah, USC, Nebraska, that's an NBC game from a Fox conference. You can see how they arrived here. It was the perfect storm of a week for this to actually happen. All right. First of all, you're the Big 12. Just take it. Just take it. Don't ask questions. Take it. Be happy with it. That is part one of this. But part two, I do think it's still fair to pull into focus the stats that I dropped from the Heartland College sports story there and say, don't let ESPN totally off the hook for this. This feels a little bit like a pity, like, hey, we don't really have anything else going on this week, so we'll toss you this bone. You guys have been complaining a lot. We hear all the complaining. Let's just do this. Shut these guys up for a little bit. Throw the peasants a crumb here. You got to take the crumb. That's the world you're in. You got to take the crumb, especially when, hey, Big Noon will come around a lot. And that's great and that's fine. And I appreciate Big Noon there. But Big Noon gets, at least last year, got an average of about 1 million viewers. Game day's 2.2. So there's twice as many viewers there. Still rates far better than Big Noon. You take what you can get and you hope you take advantage of it and give everybody a good show and make it something special to the point where hopefully the next time Nick Saban talks about Brendan Sorsby, he doesn't call him Sorley. Because that happened this week. Good old Sorley. Come on, Nick. Come on, man. Do your homework. That stuff always amazes me. You guys are the most detail-oriented coaches ever. Can we get the guy's last name right? Get the guy's last name correct? Brendan Sorsby, Nick. Brendan Sorsby. Anyway, I'm happy for the Big 12 that this is happening. I would also make the point, the more, if you make this a big deal, if you complain, nobody wants to, I guess, be a complainer all the time and live in negative energy, but bullying does work sometimes. Bullying works a little bit. I think that, creating a little bit of pressure probably helped this along a bit. I'd be curious to know a little bit more behind the scenes on how everything went there. But hey, Utah, go show out, man. That's a great fan base. You guys should be fired up. You're still definitely in the Big 12 race. This is a big game. Cincinnati's got a chance to really prove its stuff in a tough environment on the road. I mean, Utah has been, outside of the Texas Tech game, real tough at home. This should be a good showcase for the league. Go make it as good as possible. Everybody involved here. And soak it all in. Enjoy this, everybody. This does not happen every week that the Big 12 has this much love from TV. So, Pacific Northwest Ute. What's up, Pacific Northwest Ute? College game day, going to see a team that isn't running the Big 12. I hear Rice Eccles is lovely this time of year. Bird is the word. Daily, each week. Well, no. Pacific Northwest Ute. What is... I had that stat last week. What is Utah's combined record in the Big 12? 3-2 this year. What was it? 2 wins last year. Calculate this on the fly. 2-7. So 5-9. Utah is 5-9 since joining the Big 12. You are correct. They're most definitely not running the Big 12. Okay, not running the Big 12. But congrats to Utah. Just, blowing Colorado to smithereens. Shout out to my guys on the Solid Verbal. They'll talk about the crock potting somebody, cooking it long and slow versus flash frying somebody. Dude, that was as flash fry as I have ever seen. Colorado just destroyed. Negative 18 yards in the first half. And with the backup quarterback, no less, Devin Dampier, another one of the Big 12 quarterbacks who just can't really stay healthy right now. So I hope Dampier's back. I hope it'll be a great game. Pacific Northwest U. I hope it'll be a great game. Let's see. Am I missing another super chat here? Oh, Payson Cougar fan. I'm so sorry. Payson Cougar fan says, can't believe I'm saying this, but go Utes, beat the Bearcats. Go Cougars. All right. So Payson Cougar fan on board, wanting a little bit of help, I presume, up atop the Big 12 standings. And because of that is asking the arch rival, Utah, to go knock off Cincy. Love that, Payson Cougar fan. I love that you are humble enough to do that when needed. Okay. Congratulations on that. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the show. Please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel. All that stuff really helps. I appreciate you guys a lot. If you're listening on audio platforms, rate and review. That really helps. Give a 5-star rating. Review the show. That helps other people find it. That would be amazing, amazing, amazing if you guys can do that. I would appreciate that a lot. And subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. That is ofbnews.com. Did you guys see the AP poll? Big 12 actually getting some respect in the AP poll this week. How about that? And is Cincinnati actually a team that should be considered for the best in this conference? Because, woo boy, I asked that question and I had people very angry with me. Okay, so I suppose we need to, let's just discuss it here. All right. The AP poll is out. 5 Big 12 teams are ranked. 5 Big 12 teams are ranked. Utah sneaks into the poll. And speaking of things that help with getting College Game Day, the fact that the AP voters actually stepped up and put Utah into the top 25 at number 24, that helps because then it creates a ranked matchup between Cincy and Utah. Okay, that did help. Houston's number 22. Congratulations to the Cougars for being ranked for the first time since 2022. Cincy at number 17. Look at that, man. The Bearcats climbing all the way. Texas Tech up a spot to 13. BYU is at number 10. So the Big 12 does have a top 10 team here. I got to be honest. In a vacuum, it's hard to have too much of an issue with this from the AP voters. If I wanted to nitpick, I would go through and say, well, Georgia Tech is unbeaten out of the ACC. Georgia Tech and BYU had a common opponent in a common place, playing Colorado and Boulder, and both got down big early and came back and won a close game. Should Georgia Tech really be 2 spots in front of BYU? I could make a case that maybe not, but I'm not going to get incredibly angry and upset over that. You know, is Georgia Tech maybe getting a little extra juice just from the brand, the decal on the side of the helmet that they beat with Clemson? Perhaps. We've now seen what Clemson has actually turned out to be this year. Perhaps there's some of that, but I won't complain too crazy hard about that. All right. Texas Tech being in front of Miami, I do think would be nice, but I know that is not going to happen. I would not expect that to happen. So, you know, minor qualms, nothing really major. I'm happy that the Big 12 has 5 teams in. And if you do want to do this comp with the ACC, which tends to happen, if you're the 2 leagues outside of the Big 10 and the SEC here, Big 12's got 10, 13, 17, 22, 24. ACC's got 8, 10, 15, 16. So one less team. They're not relying as much on the back end, though, with Houston and Utah, and Georgia Tech at the high end is slightly higher than BYU. So you do have that. If we're talking about ceilings and potential here, I mean, I think most people would still tell you that Miami is the best out of that group. And frankly, I would probably agree, though I don't think Texas Tech is that far behind. Again, if we're taking health into consideration. But I think the Big 12, you know, compares pretty favorably right now to the ACC. Like all that extra brand power, and Miami is doing something, but where's Clemson? Okay, no one can tell me where Clemson is. Yeah, not doing well. Where's Florida State? Total disaster, talking about firing Mike Norvell. It's not helping the ACC when compared to the Big 12 right now. And even this, if you're saying, well, John, like the concern that was raised earlier by Michael, how fast are teams going to drop once they lose a game? Like, what are the odds of an actual 2-bid league for the Big 12 this year? What are those possibilities? Well, I'm going to present to you at least some somewhat encouraging news here. That comes from Andy Staples with On 3. Andy Staples does his bracketology. Here's his latest bracketology. His latest bracketology actually has 3 Big 12 teams on the graphic. Now, yes, BYU is the only team in the field. BYU is an 11 seed playing Ole Miss, which would be fun. I mean, I look at this bracket, I'm like, that looks pretty fun, man. Georgia Tech, Vandy. Memphis going to Georgia. Then Texas A&M, like, man, if BYU can beat Ole Miss, going to play Texas A&M, it's going to be a fun bracket. If you got Vandy, Indiana, that's a game I would really want to see. Anyway, Cincy and Texas Tech are listed in the first 4 out. Cincy and Texas Tech in the first 4 out. You're back up there on the graphic with a chance to sneak in. Cincy actually listed in front of Texas Tech, by the way. Tech fans, I'm not sure how you'll take that. And that's an interesting segue into what I have to say next, okay? Which is that, man, there was a point on Saturday where Cincinnati was up 24-0 on Baylor, and I'm looking over at the other screen on the TV, and BYU is trailing in Ames. And I said I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, man, Cincinnati impressed me very much. The Iowa State game really got me. The Kansas game had me intrigued. The Iowa State game had me like, okay, I got to be on this. But just when it continues to happen every single week, you're still, fairly or not, Cincinnati, I admit some of this is unfair, but it's been a while since I've seen like a legit Cincinnati team like this. It still catches me off guard a little bit. And I'm like, damn, they're up 24-0 now. I just asked the question on Twitter. Look, I was just asking a question, guys. This got people so angry. But because BYU was losing and because Cincinnati was dominating, I just asked, is Cincinnati the best team in the league? And will you guys look at how many responses that got? There are 130. There are 130 responses to that. 130. I think that might be the most replied to tweet that I have had in years. Just by simply asking ... is Cincinnati the best team in the league? That had people upset. Had people very upset. Okay, now I'm going to give you my Big 12 power rankings on the heels of this. I don't actually think Cincinnati is the best team in the league. In fact, I left them unchanged from where I had them before. Okay, but just testing the waters a little bit there. Testing the waters and making the point that like Cincinnati belongs in the conversation. That's really a part of the tweet. I'm making the point that Cincinnati belongs in the conversation. And if you're somebody like me that was coming along slowly on this, let's be fair to Cincy and include them in this conversation atop the Big 12. All right. And with that, let's get to the power rankings. Okay. Here are the power rankings. Thank you to ChatGPT for making a pretty poor graphic. Again, this always happens. So basically what I've discovered here with ChatGPT is that if you're in the bottom 2, it's not going to show up well on this ChatGPT generated graphic. Okay. So West Virginia and Oklahoma State, you got to get better. And then we can get your full name on there. You won't be overpowered by something that says powered by Open for Business, which I didn't ask for. Anyway, BYU still number 1. Still number 1 in my power rankings. Texas Tech still number 2. Cincinnati still number 3. Unchanged from last week. This is where Houston creeps up there. Houston beating Arizona State. Shorthanded or not, Houston's up into the top 4. Utah is at 5. Now, if you ask me, which team do I think would win on a neutral field? I think I would take Utah, but I will admit, I think that'd be a really close game. I think I would still lean Utah in that game. But the more and more you do that, Houston keeps winning games. For now, based on merit and what they have accomplished in the Big 12 so far this year, and Utah already having lost twice in the league, I'm going to give Houston the edge. Arizona State drops to number 6. K-State, this is the big mover. If you were here at the beginning of the show, you heard my spiel on K-State. K-State, as they are currently constructed right now, I think definitely belongs in the top half of the league for sure, and maybe like the top third of the league. They're playing like that right now and have for the last month. What they were the first month of the season was potentially the worst team in the league. So how do you square that in power rankings? It is tough, but they're 3-2 in the conference right now. They're a blown 14-point fourth quarter lead in Waco away from being like right in the thick of this. So I moved them up a lot just to show like, hey, the way they're playing right now, they are definitely a team that is capable of beating about anybody in the league. TCU, Iowa State, it's hard to parse between like your Arizona State, K-State, TCU, Iowa State. So if you're a fan of one of those teams, I would just say don't get like super offended by where I have you in there because there's not a lot of separation in that group. Then we get down to Baylor, Arizona. Kansas takes a bit of a fall. That was definitely a disappointing effort. Kansas fans, I don't need to tell you that. I know how upset everybody is with Leipold and the state of the program and feeling like it was a big step back, all that. Colorado dropped a spot, and I mean, maybe it should have been more. Maybe it should have been more. I'm perhaps being a bit kind to Colorado after the effort that they put forth, and you had Dion talking after the game about, guys can't just be worried about getting paid. Like, you got to go out there and actually ball. Oh, boy. 43-0 at half with negative 18 yards of offense for Colorado. Things are going south in a hurry for the Buffs. So the Dion haters can get their hacks in right now because things are not going well. Anyway, those are the Big 12 power rankings. Let me know in the comments what you think, whether you're on audio, YouTube, wherever. You know what? Hell, respond to my Cincinnati tweets. Become reply number 131 on that one if you would like to. But let me know what you think. And appreciate all of you guys for that. Let me pop this back up. My apologies for the dirty dinner plate in the background, man. That's how you guys know I'm real. Okay, I'm grinding here in the office, eating dinner in here, getting the show ready for you guys. Please like the video as we wrap up here. Please do subscribe to the channel, comment, rate, review, all that stuff on audio platforms, ofbnews.com to subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Open for dinner. Open for dinner is funny. That's good. Pacific Northwest Ute. Open for dinner. Yes. But it is OFB News, not OFD News, to subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. Hey, fun stuff, man. I'm enjoying football season a lot. I appreciate all of you guys so much. Whether you love me, hate me, if you're here watching the show, commenting, whatever, I appreciate you. Thank you for giving me a platform to do this. Let's enjoy it, my friends. I will be back at it. You're going to get a Big 12 newsletter, Open for Business Big 12 newsletter tomorrow. I will be back at it with another live show midweek. It's not going to be Wednesday. I'm going to be at a concert on Wednesday. So shooting for Thursday. Probably going to be a later in the week, Thursday live stream for you guys. But stay tuned. I will talk to you soon, and be good. Be well. I'll see you soon.